I'm Alex Clear and I'm here at Anuga FoodTech 2018 with Anders Lindgren, Vice President of Tetra Recart. Anders, thank you very much for joining me.
You're most welcome, thank you.
Now you're talking at Anuga FoodTech here about Tetra Recart and its abilities in cartons. And can you tell us a little bit about how you're trying to steal share from cans?
Yeah, you see, we see today that we have a very good alternative to a can today. We have a package that in many areas perform much better. I think this will be an industry transformation over time. The question for us is, how can we make this happen, as basically as quick as possible?
And in terms of performance, we've got a carton here.
Yep.
Obviously, something that consumers are used to in cans, some sort of beans or legumes or tomatoes, for instance. Can you tell us how the performance of the carton compares to a pull-tab can, for instance?
Yeah. Well, I think we have a few, one clear benefit is, of course, logistics. And I think logistics comes more and more in play when you look at e-grocery and what actually the retailers are focused on today. I think another thing that we see in Tetra Recart, and we see that Tetra Pak as such as well, is the increased focus on sustainability. And I think from an environmental point of view, we have a much better profile than actually can has. And I think that also when we do research with consumers, the consumers find it easy to handle, open, empty, you don't cut yourself, it's many benefits with it from that point of view. Retailers, I think, when they look a lot at the self-replenishment, the logistics, and they don't have to turn them in the stores and so forth. There's a lot of benefits. Yes. I think all through the value chain, we see a number of different benefits.
And in terms of sustainability, you mentioned sustainability. How does a carton beat a can?
Well, I think the fair way of doing that is to look at the whole life cycle. So do a complete life cycle assessment or analysis. And then actually what we see is that the carton comes out much better. If you look at the CO2 per liter, kilo CO2 per liter of product, we compare, only 1/5 of a can. And I think a little bit Achilles heel of a can there is actually the weight and all the energy that the metal production takes.
You mentioned e-commerce and online grocery. That's obviously booming at the moment. And you've actually had a few success stories yourself in the e-commerce space, haven't you, with brands adopting
maybe I should change pack here.
Yes, of course, go for it.
We have a very interesting example here, for example, which is Amazon. When Amazon has gone into the food side, they actually choose our package as the package of choice for them. And of course, we know they are an increasingly strong player and will be even stronger, of course, on the food side. So I think this is a very interesting thing. And of course, they have done a proper analysis to compare different packaging solutions. Then I think we have another very interesting example here, which is HelloFresh. They belong to the one that are doing food baskets for meals. I think in the US today they have 150 to 200,000 subscribers. I think you pay a very reasonable amount. I think it's about $5-6 per person for the meal. It takes you 30 minutes to prepare, and they give you the basket with the food, and they then put this into. So for example, here is corn that can come with a meal. And of course for us it's very good because it becomes, in a sense, good sampling for the consumers, where they actually then can try how this actually performs, how you can handle it and how you manage the product.
Yes, it must be enormously beneficial to have this in consumers' hands.
Yeah.
We've talked about sustainability, we've talked about the performance. If we talk about the lightweightness and the sort of the weight of a carton against a can, how does that compare?
Well, you see this carton, now this is empty, so it is actually very light. So this probably this is about 15-17 grams compared to around 50. So you normally say it's 3-4 times difference in weight. So of course it is a very lightweight system. And I think sometimes you need to go back a little bit and look at a little bit bigger picture of that, because of course shelf-stable food distribution I think is critical to the world. And to have efficient systems to do that, to be able to reduce the food waste that we have, which is a huge global issue, I think is critical. And after that, you need to see what is the most efficient packaging systems to manage that. And I think then with the current availability of alternatives, I think this stands up very well in that role.
Is there something to be said as well for the branding space on the front of a carton? Is it perhaps better than a curved can?
Yeah, I think if you go to a store and you actually look at the shelf, you realize one thing that I realized quite lately is actually when you look at a rounded or or a flat panel, it's much easier to read. You never have to turn to be able to read the full one. So of course from a display point of view, you actually build walls with designs instead of having rounded ones. I think that is also, in addition to that, an advantage. Plus, of course, your printability here is full. You can basically print around the package. I think that's also one. And I think, then you see, customers are really utilizing that. You get very, nice looking. Just this wall, I think, looks very tempting.
It does indeed. Yeah. And in terms of consumers and retailers will say they have concerns about what kinds of products can be packaged in cartons as opposed to cans. Are there any sorts of foods you can't handle in carton?
Well, there are some, and there is some different restrictions. A little bit of that we're not managing, for example, very low acidity products today, like like if you take chili peppers, some of the olives and like that. But I mean, most of the products we can manage. I think it's sometimes more a fit into a category. For example, today we're working on a smaller size. We don't have a smaller size. Smaller size is very big for cat food, for example, for baby food, and for fish, for example, where you need 100 to 150 milliliter package. It's also thing, but those things we can overcome over time. And as you've seen over here, we have some chefs over here also that can always support to come up with recipes that works very well in the process that you use for carton, which is very similar to what you use for cans. And I think Ronald, if you look at e-commerce, I think there's one more comment is that, even if, I only showed, basically we showed 2 examples, 3. This is actually also only dedicated for e-commerce. I think that we know that, of course, the logistic advantage is high here. So, I think that over time, this can possibly be a thing that will speed up the conversion from can to Tetra Recart, because when e-commerce increases, there will be more pull for things that works very well through that channel.
You mentioned the different sizes. Can you just talk us through which sizes are available for Tetra Recart?
Yeah, we have, we start today. We have a 340, we have a 390, we have a 440, we have a 500 package today. So that's the different sizes we have today. Sorry, maybe I skipped to 200. The 200 is the smallest pack. We have the 200 as well. We have 5 sizes today available.
Which of those is most popular?
The most popular is the 390, because that's equivalent to the 400 grams, which is a very big or common package, for example, for tomato products. So that's would be the main one.
And in terms of the opportunity you see within stealing share from cans, how big is that worldwide?
Oh, it's huge. The total opportunities for this is probably between 120 and 150 billion packages today. That is the total can industry. I think, of course, it's a bit naive to say that we're going to take all that. It's not going to happen. These transformation of industry are going to take long time. They're going to come up other solutions. We compete with pouches and other things. But I think that the can in itself still going to struggle a bit going forward, because it's a 200-year-old solution. We know that. And the requirements in today's industry when it comes to the things we discussed around environment, sustainability, logistics, e-commerce, is actually going to accelerate, I think, that change over time.
It's multifaceted. Anders, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, pleasure. Thank you so much.